I'm Leah Fox, and let me tell you about the Christmas that changed my entire life. My mother-in-law and her family of 7 were planning a trip to Hawaii for Christmas, and the flights and hotel reservations cost me tens of thousands of dollars. As they were leaving, she patted my shoulder with that familiar condescending tone and said, "Good daughter-in-law, stay home and watch over the house." I nodded dutifully, but the moment their plane took off, I immediately called my bank to freeze all my credit cards and accounts. On Christmas Day, while I was at my parents' house unwrapping the thoughtful gifts they had given me, my phone showed 160 missed calls from my mother-in-law. The final text message came from my husband. "The hotel kicked us out. We're spending the holidays on the street. Are you satisfied now?" That fateful family dinner, which would ultimately determine the direction of my marriage, took place under the harsh glare of our dining room chandelier. The bright light illuminated every greedy line etched into my mother-in-law Dawn Reed's face as she spoke with a tone that brooked no argument. "Leah, our family is going to Hawaii for Christmas. You'll handle the flight and hotel arrangements. Jessica and I have already decided we want the Four Seasons on Waikiki Beach, those ocean view suites, for 7 people. My grip on my fork tightened until my knuckles turned white. 7 people. Besides my husband Kyle Reed and me, there were his parents, his brother's family of 3, and his unmarried sister Jessica Reed, who carried herself with an air of superiority despite her circumstances. I kept my eyes downcast and didn't immediately agree. My brother-in-law Kevin Reed immediately tapped his plate with his knife and said with casual arrogance, "Sister-in-law, you need to hurry up with this. If you wait too long, there won't be any rooms left. My son has been talking about seeing dolphins in Hawaii for ages." His wife, my sister-in-law Linda Reed, quickly chimed in with her cloying voice. "Yes, sister-in-law, I've been looking at so many travel guides on Pinterest. You'll have to buy me one of those duty-free handbags while we're there. The prices are so much better there." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I earned $150,000 a year as a senior project manager at a Silicon Valley tech company. Kyle Reed, my husband, made $4,000 a month. In our 3 years of marriage, I had become their family's personal poverty alleviation program, a walking ATM machine. Under the table, a warm hand covered mine and squeezed gently. It was Kyle. When I looked up at him, his eyes were full of pleading and reassurance, yet he continued speaking to his mother and siblings. "Mum, Leah's been busy at work. Let her take her time looking into it. It's not about the money. What matters most is making Mom happy. It's not about the money. What I lacked wasn't money, but respect, being treated like a human being rather than a bottomless wallet." This was always his pattern. Building a wall between me and his family, using my flesh, blood, and dignity as the mortar, then hiding behind it to enjoy a false sense of peace. In that moment, something deep inside me shattered completely. I slowly withdrew my hand and let a perfectly submissive smile spread across my face. Mom is absolutely right. Christmas should be about the whole family being happy together. I'll book everything right now. I pulled out my phone and began making the arrangements in front of everyone. Dawn Reed's face lit up with satisfaction as she placed a piece of greasy roast beef on my plate, her tone becoming noticeably warmer. "Oh, that's my Leah, so thoughtful and understanding. Not like some daughters-in-law who act like you're killing them when they have to spend their husband's money." Her gaze pointedly shifted toward Linda Reed, who was quietly eating with her head down. Linda's face flushed red and white alternately, but she didn't dare say a word. I watched the total on my phone screen climb to over $60,000 and pressed the payment button. The cheerful ding of the successful transaction echoed clearly above the noisy dinner table. Mom, it's all set. 7 first-class tickets and ocean view suites at the Four Seasons for 7 days and 6 nights. Wonderful! What a good daughter-in-law. Dawn Reed beamed, as if those $60,000 were lottery winnings she had personally earned. That night, when we returned to our own home, Kyle tried to embrace me from behind. My body stiffened, and I smoothly stepped away. "Leah, are you angry?" he asked cautiously. I didn't turn to look at him, simply removing my coat calmly. "No. I know Mum and the others went a bit overboard, but it's the holidays. Just think of it as making the elderly happy. They've had it tough." There it was again, that phrase. They've had it tough. I turned around and for the first time looked at my husband with completely unfamiliar eyes. This man whom I once thought I could entrust my life to, whom I believed I could nurture with my love and devotion into becoming a real man, I now realized I had been wrong about. A piece of rotten wood can never be carved into a pillar. "Kyle, do you think I've had it easy?" I asked quietly. He froze, opening and closing his mouth without uttering a single word. "For this family, I fight battles at the office during the day, then come home to endure your family's endless demands. I contributed $50,000 toward your brother's house down payment. I paid for your sister's expensive music training classes. Your mother's monthly gambling losses at the casino, I'm the one who covers those debts. And what about you? What have you done for this family?" My voice was soft. His face flushed red, and after a long pause, he stammered, That's my mom. What am I supposed to do? Tell her to cut ties with me." I looked at him and suddenly laughed, almost to the point of tears. So in his mind, disappointing his mother was equivalent to cutting family ties, while letting me suffer endless humiliation was simply making the elderly happy. The last ember of warmth in my heart was completely extinguished. "You're right, it's the holidays. No point in arguing." I ended this meaningless fight and walked into the bathroom. On the day I drove them to the airport, I woke up early. The Reed family party of 7 was dressed to the nines, decked out in jewelry and flashy clothes, looking like small-town nouveau riche heading to a red carpet event. My sister-in-law, Jessica Reed, was particularly ridiculous, wearing sunglasses that covered half her face and carrying a knockoff Hermes bag, desperate to make sure everyone knew she was about to enjoy a luxury vacation. The airport was bustling with people, and their group of 7 marched through proudly, drawing plenty of stares. I followed behind like an assistant, quietly helping them check their luggage and handle various details. Just before they went through security, Dawn Reed turned around and, in front of all the relatives and friends who had come to see them off, warmly took my hand and patted my shoulder. Her gesture was forceful, as if she were brushing dust off my clothes. "Good daughter-in-law, I'm leaving the house in your care. You stay home and watch over everything, and we can enjoy ourselves with peace of mind." Her tone carried an air of both condescension and showing off. Everyone around heard this, and the looks they gave me carried a mixture of sympathy and amusement. I clearly saw a flash of discomfort cross Kyle's face, but he said nothing, only urged, "Mom, let's go through security. We don't want to miss our flight." My smile was as perfect and rehearsed as a mask as I nodded obediently. "Mom, have a wonderful trip. Safe travels." Watching their 7 confident, eager figures disappear through the security checkpoint, my smile faded inch by inch. I turned and walked out of the terminal with long strides, without a hint of nostalgia. Sitting in my white Tesla, I pulled out my phone, which still displayed the bank customer service number I had looked up earlier. I took a deep breath and dialed. "Hello, this is First Bank VIP customer service. How may I help you today?" came the sweet voice of the representative. My voice was unnaturally calm. I need to freeze all cards under my name, including credit cards and debit cards. Are you experiencing an emergency situation, such as fraudulent charges or lost cards? No, I said, watching a plane roar into the sky outside my window. I'm voluntarily freezing them, now, immediately. Certainly, Ms. Fox, processing that for you now. Please verify your identity information. After a series of confirmations, the representative confirmed, Ms. Fox, your Platinum credit card ending in 3456 and your Diamond Savings card ending in 7890 have all been emergency frozen. Is there anything else I can help you with? I said softly. Thank you. After hanging up, I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat, started the car, and smoothly merged into traffic. I didn't go home, but instead drove directly onto the highway leading to my parents' house. The scenery outside my windows rushed backward like layers of shackles being shed. That, thank you, wasn't meant for the customer service representative. It was for myself. Thank you, Leia, for finally choosing to live for yourself. An unprecedented sense of liberation enveloped me. On Christmas evening, outside my window were the colourful Christmas lights and the sounds of laughter from neighbouring houses. Inside, there was the warm glow of my childhood home. My father, a retired engineer, was bustling about in the open kitchen wearing an apron. Honey-glazed ham, roasted potatoes, green beans with mushrooms. One after another, my favourite Christmas dishes emerged from the kitchen, carrying both aromatic steam and abundant love. My dear daughter, come taste Dad's cooking and see if I've gotten rusty, he said cheerfully, removing his apron. My mother pulled me to sit on the couch and tenderly touched my face. You've lost weight. You've been suffering at the Reed house, haven't you? I shook my head and smiled. Mum, I'm home now, aren't I? Yes, I was home. Back to the place that would unconditionally accept and love me no matter what I became. My father brought out a thick red envelope from his study and pressed it into my hands. Wherever my daughter is, that's where home is. Take this, buy whatever you want, don't deprive yourself. I clutched that red envelope, my eyes welling up. This was the difference between real family members. Some people only want to take from you, while others only want to give you the very best the world has to offer. Just then, my phone, which I had tossed in the corner of the couch, began vibrating frantically like it had Parkinson's disease. The screen repeatedly flashed with mother-in-law, displaying a relentless determination that wouldn't quit until it achieved its goal. I glanced at it and pressed the silent button, letting it continue its solo performance. My mother looked worriedly at the phone. Is this really okay? My father served me a slice of the largest ham and said steadily, What's wrong with it? If you don't love your own daughter, can you expect others to? Eat. I gave my father a big smile. Dad, you're absolutely right. That Christmas dinner filled me with contentment and warmth. The gloom that had accumulated in my heart for years seemed to be dispelled by the homey atmosphere of this meal. After dinner, our family of 3 sat by the fireplace, watching Christmas specials and chatting about everyday things. When I picked up my phone, it had automatically shut off due to a dead battery. After charging and turning it back on, countless missed calls and text messages flooded in like a tsunami. 160 missed calls, with 150 from my mother-in-law, and the rest from my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and Kyle. The text messages were filled with curses and accusations. My mother-in-law's voicemails, one after another, were full of shrill screaming. Leah, you jinx! What do you think you're doing? Why aren't any of the cards working? Are you deliberately trying to get our whole family killed abroad? I'm telling you, if my son suffers because of you, I'll haunt you even as a ghost. My sister-in-law Jessica's texts were even more vicious. Are you insane, Leah Fox? We're in the hotel lobby right now with people waiting for us to pay, and you froze all the cards. What are you plotting? You evil woman. Ha ha ha. You think we'll beg you. Just wait. When my brother gets back, you'll get what's coming to you. I scrolled through them expressionlessly. They never seemed to consider why I would do this. In their minds, I was simply the ATM that should provide unconditionally, and stopping that supply was unforgivable betrayal. The last message was from Kyle, sent half an hour ago. The text was brief but filled with hysterical accusation. The hotel kicked us out. We're dragging our luggage through the streets on Christmas. Are you satisfied now? Satisfied? I looked at the neighbor's Christmas star twinkling on their rooftop, casting shifting light and shadows on my face. I didn't reply with any text. I simply raised my phone and took a picture of our family of 3 enjoying our cozy evening watching television. In the photo, my parents smiled warmly. I sat in the middle holding a cup of hot cocoa with a beaming smile, and behind us, the warm firelight danced in the fireplace. Christmas tree lights sparkled, and the table still displayed the remnants of our sumptuous Christmas feast. I sent this photo, along with the picture of our abundant dinner table, to Kyle. No words, but it spoke louder than any explanation. My phone immediately buzzed with an incoming voice message. I played it on speaker. Kyle's furious roar instantly filled the entire living room. Leah, have you lost your mind? Do you have any humanity left? My mum has a heart condition. My nephew is only 5 years old. You're making them freeze on the streets of Hawaii on Christmas. Is your heart made of stone? My parents' faces darkened, but I laughed. I picked up my phone and carefully typed out a response, word by word. A family that can afford a $60,000 suite should certainly be able to pay for a $100 a night motel. Besides, the streets of Hawaii must be quite lively during the holidays. I hope you all enjoy watching the spectacular New Year fireworks from the streets of Hawaii. Send. I held down his profile picture and systematically clicked Delete Contact and Add to Blacklist from the pop-up menu. Then I opened their family group chat and left the conversation. After completing all of this, I blocked every single Reed family member. Mother-in-law, sister-in-law, brother-in-law. Not a single contact remained. The world instantly became peaceful. I took a long breath, feeling like even the air had become fresher. My father looked at me with approval and heartache in his eyes. You should have done this long ago. My mother sighed but said nothing more, simply placing a slice of freshly cut apple pie on my plate. I picked up my fork and took a bite. It was delicious. This was the most fragrant Christmas dessert I had tasted in 3 years of marriage. On New Year's morning, I was awakened by my father's hearty laughter. Rubbing my eyes as I walked out of my room, I saw him holding his phone, reading something with great interest. Dad, what's got you so amused this early? My father handed me his phone. Your dear sister-in-law has sent you a New Year's gift. I took the phone and saw Jessica Reed's Facebook post on the screen. 9 carefully composed and color-corrected photos. In them, my mother-in-law, Dawn Reed, looked sickly as she leaned against my brother-in-law, my little nephew curled up shivering on a suitcase, my father-in-law squatted miserably on a curb smoking, and Jessica herself appeared tearful, yet trying to appear strong. The background showed some unknown Hawaiian alley that indeed looked quite pathetic. The accompanying text was even more dramatic and eloquent. What we thought would be a joyful Christmas family vacation turned into a nightmare for our family of 7. As the New Year bells rang, we were thrown out of a 5-star hotel like garbage, all because my sister-in-law, who earns $150,000 a year and has the heart of a snake, froze all the bank cards before our departure. She said she was watching the house. How amusing. She enjoys a warm Christmas alone in her mansion while leaving our family homeless on foreign streets. My mother had a heart attack. My 5-year-old nephew cried in the cold wind. Leah Fox, I don't know what our Reed family did to offend you to make you seek such vicious revenge against us. Doesn't your conscience hurt? Below were countless comments from mutual friends and Kyle's colleagues. My God, how could there be such an evil woman? Kyle really got the worst luck, marrying such a killer. Leah always seemed so quiet, I never imagined she could be so cruel. This is too much, she's like a modern-day farmer and snake story. Reading those harsh insults, my heart felt ice cold. This was their idea of family. They stabbed me and then complained that my bleeding had stained their floor. But my father didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed and patted my shoulder. Don't worry, sweetheart. We'll meet force with force. It's your turn to take the stage. I nodded and picked up my own phone. I logged into my long unused Twitter account, which didn't have many followers, mostly real-life friends and some work contacts. I didn't rush to argue or fight back. I calmly began composing a new long tweet. Title: Regarding my payment of $60,000 in travel expenses while being asked to watch the house. Body: Hello everyone, I'm Leah Fox. Happy New Year. This should be a time of family joy, but I've unexpectedly become the protagonist of a social media drama. My sister-in-law Jessica Reed has made a tearful accusation against me on Facebook, calling me snake-hearted and claiming I left their entire family stranded on the streets of Hawaii. In response, I have several facts I need to clarify. First, regarding this Hawaiian Christmas trip, I did indeed pay the full cost for 7 people's travel expenses, including first-class tickets and 4 seasons suites, totaling $62,888. Words without proof, here's the evidence. Attached Image 1. Clear screenshots of flight and hotel payment receipts, showing amounts, dates, and passenger information. Second, regarding why I didn't travel with them. Before departure, my mother-in-law, Dawn Reed, in front of everyone, warmly instructed me, "Good daughter-in-law, stay home and watch the house." As an obedient daughter-in-law, I naturally had to follow my elders' arrangements. To prove I'm not fabricating this, here's evidence. Attached Image 2. Screenshot of text conversation with mother-in-law. After dropping them off, I deliberately prompted her to send this text. "Mum, enjoy your trip. I'll wait at home for your return." She replied, "Good. Watch the house." Finally, regarding Jessica Reed's question about what our Reed family did wrong to you. I think this requires discussing the income disparity between myself and Kyle Reed. As a Silicon Valley tech company project manager, my annual after-tax salary is approximately $150,000. My husband, Kyle Reed, earns $4,000 monthly. In our 3 years of marriage, my contributions to this family far exceed those $60,000 in travel expenses. I welcome family members visiting. I don't welcome parasites moving in. I'm willing to give for love, but I don't accept poverty relief marriage. Attached Image 3. A processed salary comparison chart. Personal company and individual information were hidden, but the numerical length differences representing income created a stark visual impact. That's all I have to say. I froze my own bank cards, money I worked hard to earn. I'm defending my own property and dignity. Happy New Year, everyone. Keep your eyes open and stay away from toxic people. After finishing the last word, I reviewed it once to ensure accuracy, then clicked send. After posting, my father immediately shared it to the Reed family Facebook group and all our mutual friend groups. This created an enormous ripple effect. Within 10 minutes, my Twitter and phone exploded. Public opinion instantly reversed. Those who had just been cursing me under Jessica's post quickly deleted their comments. People began commenting under my tweet. OMG, it's like a real-life Great Gatsby. Daisy meets a family of leeches. A $150,000 salary supporting a $4,000 mama's boy. What kind of living saint are you? Stay home and watch the house. That phrase is absolutely disgusting. Nominee for most revolting mother-in-law quote of 2024. Feel sorry for you, girl. Well done. You can't be soft-hearted with these kinds of parasites. I saw in my father's distant relative group that someone had tagged Dawn Reed. Dawn, you really struck gold with this daughter-in-law, earning $150,000 a year and so obedient, staying home to watch the house when you tell her to. If my spouse had that kind of earning power, I'd worship her. Every word dripped with undisguised sarcasm. I refreshed Facebook to see that Jessica's tearful accusation had been quietly deleted. I put down my phone, feeling like the poisonous gas of being slandered had finally been completely expelled from my chest. Sunlight streamed through the windows, warm and bright. The feeling of total victory was truly satisfying. The fermentation of public opinion was even more explosive than I had imagined. My tweet somehow got picked up by a major influencer and overnight gained over 1 million views. Tags like poverty relief marriage, parasitic in-laws, and mama's boy husband precisely struck a nerve with young people today. I, Leah Fox, became completely famous. Kyle's family also suffered complete social death. On the second day of the new year, my father received a call from a friend who did business in Hawaii. On the phone, this uncle gleefully shared gossip he had heard. After being kicked out of the hotel, Kyle's family didn't have enough cash and refused to stay in motels, insisting on finding nice hotels. After asking around, they discovered that Christmas season hotel prices in Hawaii were sky high and their money couldn't even cover a standard room. Finally, Kyle swallowed his pride and borrowed some money to find a damp, dark little inn in the suburbs. 7 people crammed into 2 rooms, and because they didn't have enough money, they fought with the inn owner and nearly got kicked out a second time. My little nephew got sick from the unfamiliar environment and caught a cold, suffering from vomiting and diarrhea, ending up in the hospital emergency room during the holidays. The whole family looked disheveled and became a laughingstock in certain local circles in Hawaii. After hanging up, my father looked at me and sighed. Evil people get their due punishment. I felt nothing. This was just the first installment of interest they owed for their greed and stupidity. That evening, while I was watching a boring New Year's special with my mother, an unfamiliar local number called. I hesitated, but answered. On the other end was Kyle's hoarse voice, barely containing his fury. Leah, what exactly do you want? You've humiliated our entire family. How am I supposed to face relatives and friends? Delete that tweet immediately. His tone wasn't questioning but commanding. I held my phone away from my ear and replied with the calmness of discussing weather. You brought that shame on yourselves. I didn't give it to you. The phone fell silent for a few seconds, then his tone softened. Leah, honey, I know I was wrong. I apologize for Mom and Jessica. Please delete the tweet, okay? Now everyone knows about this. Mom and the others are too embarrassed to leave their rooms in Hawaii. Listening to his insincere apology, I felt only irony. He wasn't apologizing because he truly realized his mistakes, but because my counterattack had caused them pain and embarrassment. That's your problem, I interrupted. I'm at my parents' house and I'm doing very well. My coldness seemed to completely enrage him. Leah, do you have to take it this far? Do you think I can't do anything to you? I'll fly back from Hawaii right now to see you. We'll talk face to face. No need. My voice also turned cold with an undeniable finality. Save the airfare. I paused and said clearly, tomorrow at 10 a.m., Meet me at our house. I deliberately emphasized the words, our house. Kyle on the other end seemed confused by my sudden change and instinctively asked, "Going back to talk? Okay, I'll book a flight right away." "Wait," I interrupted him. "When you come, remember to bring your ID, passport, and marriage certificate." "What? What do you need those for?" His voice was trembling. I gripped my phone, looking at the dark night sky outside, and said each word clearly and unmistakably. "To get divorced." With that, I hung up immediately, giving him no chance to question, plead, or rage. The living room was very quiet, and the laughter from the TV seemed particularly distant. My mother stopped peeling her apple and looked at me with concern. My father put down his newspaper, his gaze profound. I smiled easily at them. "Dad, Mom, I'm getting divorced." The next morning at 9:30, I arrived early at the house I had bought outright before marriage. This was mine and Kyle's marital home, but the property deed had always carried only my name. Opening the door, I was hit by a stale mixture of takeout food, garbage, and dust. The living room was in chaos, frozen in the disorder they had left before departing. Clothes they hadn't had time to pack were piled on the couch, and the coffee table held leftover snacks and drink bottles. I frowned but didn't clean up. I calmly took several empty boxes I had prepared from behind the door and went into the bedroom to pack my personal belongings. My clothes, my books, my computer. With each item I packed, I felt another corner of my heart being cleared out. At exactly 10 o'clock, the door lock clicked and Kyle burst in with bloodshot eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept all night, unshaven and disheveled, his eyes filled with exhaustion and mania. When he saw the boxes in the center of the living room filled with my belongings, his emotions exploded. "Leah, are you serious?" He lunged forward, trying to grab the box from my hands. I was prepared and stepped aside. The box crashed to the floor with a bang, and several books scattered out. Failing to snatch it, he switched to emotional manipulation, his voice filled with pain and disbelief. All these years of feelings between us, from college until now, almost 10 years, just because of this small matter. Because I asked you to book a trip for my family. You want to divorce me over this. I stopped packing, slowly straightened up, and for the first time looked at him with complete calm. Small matter. I repeated those words as if I had heard the joke of the century. "Kyle, you call this a small matter?" My voice wasn't loud, but it seemed to freeze all the air in the room. "Do you have any idea how much money I've spent on your family in 3 years of marriage? Your brother Kevin's house purchase. $50,000 of the $100,000 down payment came from me. I still have the transfer records on my phone. You call that a small matter? Your sister Jessica insisted on that music conservatory, those private lessons costing $30,000 a year. I paid for those. You call that a small matter? Your mother Dawn Reed constantly claiming health problems, visiting private hospitals for thousands of dollars in tests each time, always using my cards. Her gambling addiction, asking me for money when she lost, totaling over $30,000. You call that a small matter? And all your family's social obligations, holiday gifts, who handled all of that? With each point I made, Kyle's face grew paler. My emotions rose with these grievances I had suppressed for 3 years. I worked like a servant for your family, and what did I get in return? Your mother's casual stay home and watch the house, your sister's unrestrained online slander, and you, my husband, when I needed you most, pointing your finger at me and calling me heartless. Kyle, tell me, is this a small matter? He was speechless, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word of rebuttal. Seeing emotional appeals fail, the grief on his face quickly faded, replaced by angry humiliation. "Don't force me, Leah. If we really go to court, it won't look good for you as a public figure. Everyone will say you're materialistic and heartless." He was threatening me now. Watching his bluster, I suddenly laughed. I coldly chuckled, turned to my bag, pulled out a document, and slammed it down on the messy coffee table. It was the divorce agreement I had already asked my father's lawyer friend to draft. "Fine, let's go to court. Perfect opportunity to show the judge and the entire American public exactly how I'm materialistic." I pointed at the agreement. "This house is my premarital property and has nothing to do with you. The car downstairs is in my name, also my premarital property. Our only marital joint property is a joint account with less than $5,000. Didn't you say I'm materialistic? Fine. You can have all $5,000 as my poverty relief subsidy for your 3 years of service. As for you, Mr. Kyle Reed," I pointed at him with contempt in my eyes, "your contribution to this marriage was living here, eating my food, using my things, and continuously bringing your family's endless troubles into my life." He looked at that black and white divorce agreement, his face drained of all color. He probably never imagined that once he left me, he would have nothing and walk away empty-handed. He had always thought I loved him enough to give up everything for him, including my dignity and bottom line. He collapsed onto the couch, his eyes vacant like a puppet with its soul extracted, muttering, "You can't do this to me. You can't." I looked down at him and coldly pronounced his fate. "This isn't what I'm doing to you. This is what you deserve." Kyle ultimately didn't sign the divorce agreement. He clung to his last straw like a drowning man and began stalling. I didn't force him. I simply told him coldly, "Then we'll see each other in court." Then dragged my suitcase and left that suffocating home without looking back. I knew he and his family wouldn't let this end easily. Sure enough, a few days later, just as the online drama was beginning to fade from public attention, an even bigger farce unfolded. The family finally returned from Hawaii, looking completely defeated. Their first stop wasn't their own home or Kyle's workplace, but the upscale community where my parents lived. That afternoon, I was at home watching a newly released movie with my mother when suddenly we heard hysterical crying and wailing from downstairs. I could recognize that voice anywhere. It was my dear mother-in-law, Dawn Reed. My mother and I went to the balcony and looked down. In the central garden area of our community, Dawn Reed was sitting on the ground, slapping her thighs and crying to the heavens. "Dear Lord, there's no justice. My black-hearted evil daughter-in-law is trying to destroy our whole family. She took away all my son's property and wants to divorce him. What did my son do wrong to be tortured by this poisonous woman?" Beside her, sister-in-law Jessica was righteously telling the gathering neighbors about my crimes. My father-in-law and brother-in-law's family stood to one side, looking like long-suffering victims. This family really should have gone into acting. Soon a crowd of curious neighbors gathered downstairs, pointing up at our windows. My mother's face turned ashen, trembling with anger. This is completely shameless, outrageous." I soothingly patted my mother's hand, but my eyes turned cold. "Mom, don't get angry. If they want to perform, we'll perform with them to the end." My father put on his coat, his face grim, and walked out. "Let's go down and meet them." I followed closely, discreetly turning on my phone's recording function before going downstairs. When our family of 3 reached the ground floor, Dawn Reed's performance was reaching its climax. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up like a hungry wolf spotting prey, and she shrieked as she lunged toward me to scratch my face. "You little witch! Today I'll tear your mouth apart!" My father stepped forward with dignity, blocking her path with his arm. "Mrs. Reed, let's talk reasonably. This is a private residential area. If you get physical again, I'll call the police immediately. My father was tall and, as a retired engineer, carried natural authority. Dawn Reed was intimidated, and her lunging motion froze. She rolled her eyes, then simply lay down on the ground and began rolling around. "Oh, I can't live anymore. The father-in-law wants to hit people. Rich people think they're so great. Rich people can just bully us poor folks." She cried and accused me of how I had stolen her son's hard-earned money and driven their family of elderly and young to desperation. The neighbors who didn't know the truth began looking at us with some condemnation. I watched her passionate ground performance coldly, like watching a clown. When enough people had gathered and the discussion was loud enough, I raised my phone and pressed play. After a brief static sound, Kyle's familiar yet strange voice clearly echoed through the phone speaker across the entire garden. "I know Mom and the others went overboard, but it's the holidays. Just think of it as making the elderly happy." "That's my mom. What can I do? Should I cut ties with her?" These were his exact words from our argument at home that night. Next came another recording from when I went back to pack my things, and he made hysterical threats. "If we go to court, it won't look good for you as a public figure. Everyone will say you're materialistic and heartless." The recording was crystal clear. Kyle's weak excuses, shameless blame-shifting, and hollow threats were all exposed. The garden instantly fell silent. Everyone's gaze shifted from us to the woman lying on the ground, whose cries had stopped abruptly. Dawn Reed's wailing ceased as if an invisible hand had grabbed her throat. The expression on her face changed from grief and anger to shock, then to terror, finally settling into deathly pale defeat. She probably never imagined that her precious son would personally hand me such a sharp knife. The neighbors' expressions also changed from sympathy and condemnation to dawning comprehension, disdain, and mockery. So that's what really happened. Even her son admitted it, and this old woman is still putting on a show. How embarrassing, throwing away all dignity for money. Those whispered comments struck Dawn Reed and her family like resounding slaps. She scrambled up from the ground awkwardly, her face purple with humiliation, and under the crowd's scornful pointing and staring, she dragged her equally dumbfounded family away in disgrace. Watching their hasty retreat, I turned off my phone recording. The farce was finally over. I turned to my parents. "Dad, Mom, let's go home." Behind us came the neighbors' barely suppressed discussions. This time, I felt no embarrassment. I only felt the sunshine was perfect and the air was fresh. That scene downstairs became the final straw that broke Kyle's psychological defenses. His and his family's reputation was completely ruined in our community and entire social circle. He probably realized that throwing tantrums wouldn't work on me, so he changed tactics. 2 days later, I received a call from his lawyer. The voice on the phone was businesslike, but carried an air of confident arrogance. He told me Kyle had decided to file for divorce and demand division of marital joint property. The key point was that he not only demanded division of the joint account with less than $5,000, but also wanted to claim half of another property under my name. This was a small apartment my father had given me shortly after my marriage, worth about $500,000. Ms. Fox, according to California marriage law, post-marital gifts from parents, unless clearly specified as gifts to one party only, are considered joint marital property. Mr. Kyle Reed has the right to demand division of half. After listening, I laughed. I laughed so hard my chest shook. Kyle, you finally tore off your last disguise and revealed your greediest, ugliest true face. Sure, I agreed with unusual cheerfulness. The lawyer on the other end seemed stunned, probably not expecting me to be so agreeable. I continued in a relaxed tone. No problem, let's go to court. That $500,000 apartment, according to law, he can get $250,000. I accept that. However, my tone suddenly shifted and turned cold. While I'm responding to his lawsuit, I'll be filing 2 additional lawsuits with the court. First, I'll sue your client's brother Kevin Reed for unjust enrichment, demanding full return of the $50,000 I paid toward his house purchase 3 years ago. I have clear bank transfer records as evidence. I'm confident the judge will support my claim. Second, my voice grew even colder. I'll file a police report for theft against your client's sister Jessica Reed for unlawfully taking approximately $30,000 worth of jewelry from my home. I have purchase receipts and photos of all the jewelry. Given the substantial theft amount, if convicted, she faces over 3 years in prison. Dead silence on the other end. I could imagine the lawyer's expression at that moment must have been quite spectacular. I gave him no time to breathe and continued my logical demolition. Now, please help your client calculate this. In court, he might get $250,000. But simultaneously his family must immediately return $80,000 in cash, and his sister faces a permanent criminal record and possible imprisonment for theft. Do you think when the judge rules on our joint marital property, he'll ignore these 2 clearly evidenced economic disputes and criminal cases involving his family members? How much he'll ultimately receive and what happens to his sister, you can weigh for yourselves. Ask your client if this deal is worth it. I finished and waited quietly. Only heavy breathing came from the other end. I knew my legal combination punch had hit exactly where it hurt most. Kyle was greedy, but he cared more about his precious sister and brother. I gave my ultimatum. Or tell him to come back immediately and sign the agreement I drafted. Peaceful divorce, walking away with nothing. Everything from before, including that $50,000 and the jewelry, I'll let slide. 2 choices, let him decide. I'll give him 1 day. With that, I hung up decisively. The next day, I received a call from my lawyer saying Kyle and his mother Dawn Reed were at the law firm wanting to see me. When I arrived and opened the conference room door, I saw a disgusting scene. The moment Dawn Reed saw me, she dropped to her knees with a thud. She hugged my legs, tears and snot streaming down her face, sobbing dramatically. "Leah, my good daughter-in-law. Mother was wrong. Mother is not human. Mother is kneeling before you. Please don't divorce Kyle. Our family can't survive without you. Jessica can't go to prison. If she goes to prison, her life will be ruined. Please, Leah," she cried and kowtowed forcefully, her forehead hitting the floor with dull thuds. She looked as pitiful as possible. If I hadn't witnessed all her previous behavior, I might have been fooled by this Oscar-worthy performance. But now, looking at her face full of regret and fear, I only felt waves of nausea. You should have thought of this before. I didn't look at her once, didn't even try to help her up. My gaze passed over her head to fix coldly on the man behind her, who hadn't said a word and looked deathly pale. "Kyle, your choice." He stared at the cold divorce agreement on the table, his eyes torn between greed and fear. On one side was an easily obtained $250,000. On the other was his sister potentially going to prison and a completely scorched earth situation. I saw his hands clenched into tight fists at his sides, knuckles white with strain. I knew he was making the most difficult calculation of his life. And I just stood there coldly, like a judge waiting for a verdict. Finally, fear of imprisonment overcame greed for money. Kyle chose to compromise. We agreed to go to the county courthouse early the next morning to handle the paperwork. Standing at the entrance of the county courthouse, looking at those solemn official characters, I felt like I was in another lifetime. 3 years ago, I had stood here, full of joy, arm in arm with Kyle, thinking I was marrying for love. 3 years later, everything had changed, leaving only scattered pieces and endless disgust. The divorce proceedings went unexpectedly smoothly, right up to the final signing moment. Kyle picked up the pen, gave me a complex look, and seemed about to say something. I gave him no chance, coldly urging, "Sign quickly, I have a meeting this afternoon." He took a deep breath, raised the pen, but at the moment it touched paper, his wrist, accidentally, jerked. A drop of thick black ink splattered onto the most crucial signature section of the agreement, spreading into a large stain. "Oh, so sorry." He looked up. "Look, the document is ruined and can't be signed. How about we come back another day?" He was still trying to stall. He thought this would make me soften or give him time to think of new strategies. Watching his clumsy performance, I suddenly smiled. I leisurely pulled an identical document from my bag and placed it in front of him. "No problem. I anticipated accidents, so I prepared a backup." The smugness on his face instantly froze, then quickly cracked into shocked despair. He probably never imagined I would predict all his little tricks. Under the impatient prompting of the clerk, he finally picked up the pen and, trembling, signed his name on the clean agreement. When the clerk handed me the divorce certificate, I felt my entire being lighten. Walking out of the courthouse entrance, harsh sunlight hit my face. Kyle followed behind me, his voice full of resentment. "Leah, you finally got what you wanted." I turned to look at this man I had once loved, now finding him only strange and ridiculous. I raised the divorce certificate in my hand and gave him a brilliant smile. "Yes, Kyle, this is the best New Year's gift I've received this year." With that, I turned and walked away without another glance. Sitting in my car, the first thing I did wasn't call my parents with the good news, but find the contact information for Kevin's creditor through a friend. Using an untraceable phone card, I sent an anonymous text. "Hello, Kyle and Leah officially divorced today. To my knowledge, Kyle just received a substantial separation settlement from Leah. You can now pursue him for your money." I wanted that parasitic family to turn on him once they lost me as their blood supply. I wanted him to personally experience what it felt like to be treated as an ATM by family members and pursued by creditors to desperation. After doing this, I sent Kyle one final message. It was a screenshot showing my bank card balance after unfreezing, clearly displaying a 7-figure sum. I added one line. "Oh, forgot to tell you, my cards are unfrozen. Now I can buy even more things I like. But that has nothing to do with you anymore." I could imagine his despair when he was besieged by creditors and family members, exhausted and at the end of his rope, seeing this screenshot that would drive him crazy. This was the cruelest psychological blow I could devise for him. After sending it, I blocked this final contact method. From now on, mountains high and waters far, we were completely unrelated. I started the car, turned on the stereo and played an uplifting rock song. I rolled down the windows, letting the wind tousle my hair. I was free. Life after divorce was even more wonderful than I had imagined. First, I sold that white Tesla that symbolized my past marriage. Then I bought myself a brand new flame-red Ferrari sports car. Driving it along the Pacific Coast Highway at high speed, I felt like a bird that had escaped its cage. This was my gift to myself for years of hard work and endurance. Next, I gave myself a month-long vacation. I went to Switzerland to ski alone. Racing down the alpine slopes, standing atop snow-capped peaks, I felt my soul had been cleansed. I took many photos and posted them on Instagram. The photos showed me in bright ski gear and cool goggles, smiling brilliantly against the magnificent snow mountains, my eyes shining brighter than the sun. This post drew out someone I hadn't contacted in ages, my college senior, Cole Hayes. He had been my secret crush in university, a gentle, talented law student. After graduation, he went to Washington for further studies, and we lost touch. Surprisingly, he had returned to California and was now a partner at a prestigious Los Angeles law firm. He commented under my Instagram, "Smiling so happily, looks like good things are happening." I replied, "Yes, reborn." We reconnected this way. We talked about the past, present, and future. I discovered he was still the wise, understanding young man with the warm smile from my memory, just with more maturity and steadiness in his features. We were amazed to find our interests, hobbies, and values were remarkably compatible. Meanwhile, I occasionally heard news about Kyle's family from mutual friends. My anonymous text had apparently worked perfectly. Kevin's creditors actually did pursue Kyle. When mother-in-law Dawn Reed and sister-in-law Jessica discovered Kyle hadn't gotten a penny from me, they began complaining about him. They were accustomed to taking from me at will. Now that their income source was cut off, they transferred all their pressure and dissatisfaction to Kyle. Kyle was repeatedly harassed by family and creditors at his workplace, creating a scene known to everyone, which ultimately led to his resignation. After unemployment, he became completely useless to his family. My sister-in-law, seeing there was no more ATM at home, began fighting with her mother and brother over a few $100s in monthly expenses. The house became a daily battlefield of chaos. The family that once united to drain my blood finally began savagely turning on each other after losing their common enemy and provider. Hearing this news, I felt nothing inside. Evil people get their comeuppance. This was all the retribution they deserved. I completely renovated our former marital home. I threw away all furniture and items bearing traces of the past and redecorated it in my favorite modern style. Black, white, and grey dominated, calm, restrained, yet full of power. Cole drove from Los Angeles to see me and help celebrate my new home. He stood in the transformed living room, looking at me confidently, smiling in the sunlight, his eyes full of genuine appreciation. He said, "Leah, you seem to be glowing now." I smiled. Yes, after throwing away all that heavy, rotten garbage, anyone would glow. Another 6 months passed in peace and happiness. My relationship with Cole developed naturally. He was steady, considerate, respected my career, and appreciated my independence. Being with him, I experienced for the first time what a healthy, intimate relationship felt like. Nourishing, not draining. Just when I thought those people had completely disappeared from my world, an unexpected email brought back those putrid memories. The sender's address was unfamiliar, but the name was Kyle. I hesitated briefly before opening it. The message was long, filled with humility and repentance. He described in excruciating detail his miserable life over the past 6 months. Unemployed, unable to find work, scorned by family, abandoned by friends, finally kicked out by his mother to live in a dark, damp basement that never saw sunlight. Leah, I was wrong, truly wrong. These 6 months, I've regretted every single day. I shouldn't have taken your sacrifices for granted. I shouldn't have always chosen to hurt you when caught between my family and you. I personally destroyed our home, destroyed your love for me. He began reminiscing about our past good times. From our first meeting on campus to our shared struggles after graduation, those memories I had once treasured were portrayed with sentimental rhetoric. He was trying to use these to rekindle old feelings. At the end of the letter, he finally revealed his true purpose. Leah, I know I don't deserve to ask you for anything, but I'm truly desperate. For the sake of our past love, could you lend me some money to get through this crisis? Not much, just $20,000. Once I find work, I'll pay you back immediately. Please. I read the entire letter expressionlessly. No anger, no softness. I just thought this person was pathetic. Even at the very end, his thoughts weren't about how to stand up on his own, but how to extract more value from others. I didn't reply to him, nor did I delete the email. I simply moved my mouse and clicked the forward button. In the recipient field, I slowly typed my former mother-in-law, Dawn Reed's, email address. This address I had originally helped her set up to receive shopping discount notifications. I figured she probably hadn't used it in a long time. In the subject line, I succinctly typed, "Your precious son is asking me for money." Then I clicked send. After completing this, I dragged Kyle's email address to the permanent blacklist. From now on, this person and all his messages had lost even the qualification to become spam in my world. Let the mother and son fight and tear each other apart over this phantom $20,000, using what they valued most, their family bond, to deliver the cruelest blow. This was my final gift to them. 1 year later, the AI design project I led successfully launched and secured the industry's largest contract within a week, becoming the company's most spectacular success of the year. Standing at the group's annual awards ceremony, receiving the Outstanding Contribution Award trophy from the CEO, thunderous applause filled the auditorium. In the crowd, I saw Cole. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, standing there with eyes that held no amazement or worship, only gentle pride. In that moment, I felt filled with a warm, stable strength. Coming down from the stage, he naturally took the trophy from my hands and held my other hand. "Congratulations, Project Manager Leah," he teased softly. "Congratulations to you too, Attorney Cole, for winning another major case," I smiled back. Our relationship deepened daily through this mutual admiration and side-by-side progress. On a drizzly weekend, he took me to a restaurant by the Malibu shore. He hadn't prepared flowers or flashy displays. After dinner, he simply pulled a velvet box from his pocket, opened it, and placed it before me. Inside was a ring of extremely simple yet elegant design. The platinum band bore no massive diamonds, only a special engraving technique creating a circle of tiny sunflowers facing the sun. In the center of one flower, in almost invisible lettering, were our initials, L and C. "This isn't the most expensive," he looked into my eyes, his voice sincere and slightly nervous, "but I spent 3 months designing it and had it personally crafted by an artisan. Leah, it represents my heart. Will you wear it?" Looking into his shining eyes and at that unique ring, my eyes immediately welled up. I nodded vigorously. He smiled and carefully slipped the ring onto my ring finger. It fit perfectly, as if custom made for me. He brought me to Los Angeles to meet his family. His parents were retired UCLA professors, their home filled with books and the faint scent of ink. His mother, an elegantly graceful elderly woman, didn't scrutinize me like Dawn Reed had, but held my hands and looked at me with loving kindness. "We've heard about everything from Cole," she said gently. "Child, you've suffered. We admire your independence and strength. Cole is fortunate to be with you." His father was making tea nearby, smiling as he added, "Our family has no strict rules, just one thing, mutual respect and honest communication. From now on, this is your home too." In that moment, I truly felt for the first time that as a daughter-in-law, I could be respected equally and genuinely appreciated. My parents also loved Cole. Both families got along wonderfully over dinner and immediately set the wedding date. After the meal, my father pulled me aside, deeply moved. "See that, sweetheart? Happiness is actually simple. Just choose the right person." Leaning against Cole's shoulder, looking at the brilliant lights outside, my heart felt unprecedented peace and tranquility. Those unbearable, rotten people and events of the past truly felt like a long, suffocating nightmare. Now the dream was over. Dawn was finally breaking. I knew I deserved all this beauty. Cole and I went shopping for wedding necessities. Passing by my favorite upscale restaurant, Cole suggested we go in for afternoon tea. We sat by the window, warm sunlight streaming over us. I casually glanced out through the spotless glass window to the restaurant entrance. A woman in a grey cleaning uniform was laboriously mopping the pristine marble floor at the entrance. Her back was hunched, her movements slow and mechanical. A gust of wind lifted her greying hair. She instinctively looked up, wiping sweat from her forehead with her sleeve. In that instant, I saw her face clearly. That face, once full of meanness, greed, and arrogance, now showed only the weariness, haggardness, and numbness of someone ground down by life. It was Dawn Reed, my former mother-in-law. She seemed to sense my gaze and looked up blankly. When our eyes met, her pupils contracted sharply. She saw me, saw the handsome, scholarly Cole beside me, saw our intertwined hands, saw the undisguised happiness radiating from my face. She also saw the ring on my finger, gleaming softly in the sunlight. 1,000 emotions flashed through her eyes in an instant. First came electric shock-like surprise, then overwhelming jealousy and malice, finally dissolving into crushing shame and regret. She panicked and looked down, like someone stripped naked in public, wishing she could disappear into a crack in the ground. She gripped her mop so tightly her knuckles turned white. Cole followed my gaze and asked with some confusion, "What's wrong? Someone you know?" I turned back to look at him. His handsome face was full of concern for me. I gave him a radiant smile. "No," I said lightly, my tone as casual as discussing the weather. "Just a stranger." With that, I took his arm tighter and smiled at him without looking back. "Let's go in. I want to try their new chocolate mousse." We entered that warmly lit restaurant with its pleasant music. Behind us, the woman who had once created enormous upheaval in my life was now just a blurred, dirty stain in the background of my happy life. She had finally received the blessing she had schemed and calculated her whole life to obtain, and I, facing the light, walked toward my brilliant future.